So, in a recent video, John Iadarola had someone on his show who made the case for why they think that 16-year-olds should have the right to vote. So, let's take a look at a clip from the video and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it.
But lowering the voting age has always been really interesting to me because 18, if you really think about it, is a terrible year to be integrated into the political process. A lot of folks are going to college. Maybe they're becoming independent for the first time. They're getting their first job. There's a lot of changes when you're 18. And so lowering the voting age to 17 or 16 could be a really strong way to increase youth participation because voting is habitual. We know that the first time you vote, it makes it more likely that you vote a second time, a third time. And so if we can get people into the political process a little bit earlier while they're still under the auspices of their parents, while they're still kind of integrated into a community before they're independent, I think there's a lot of promise here. And we see this with, in the primary so far, youth turnout has been good, but it's still not where it should be.
Yeah.
And so this is one of the things that as we're looking forward to HR 1 and beyond, I've just become convinced that if we can just lower it to 17, 16, it could have some real transformative impacts on the electorate.
Yeah, and look, I think you perfectly lay out the sort of pragmatic case and the case for increased participation from doing this, but also in your article you have a reference to what I would say is sort of the moral case for this, which is the consequences of our decisions on a host of matters from climate change to economic policy will affect them the longest. Don't we want their voice in our democracy? Which I think it makes so much sense because we're dealing with issues like what's gonna happen with the climate crisis, and almost universally the people who are deciding are people who are not going to see the results of this plan.
So this is an issue where I actually break ranks with the progressive movement, where I don't think that it makes sense to lower the voting age to 16. And my rationale for this is pretty simple. I think that, so we, as of right now, we require that you attend school all the way up to 18. That is where most people are finished with high school. And then you can go off and you can do whatever you want. You can attend college, you can start working if you want. And so it makes sense for that to be where we decide, okay, as a society, we've decided that you are educated enough to make an informed voting decision. And obviously there are 17-year-olds who would probably make really good voting decisions, and there are 70-year-olds who would make really bad voting decisions. But I do think that we need a cutoff as a society, and I think that 18 makes sense for that cutoff. And I definitely sympathize with their argument that, okay, maybe if you lower the voting age, you could get people to start habitually voting. But I think that if you really want to increase youth turnout, you need to make the youth feel like they're being represented in politics. And I don't necessarily feel like just lowering the age to 16 is going to do that. And then I also sympathize with the argument, okay, well, young people are going to feel the ramifications of climate change for longer than older people, so it makes more sense to give them a say in the decisions that are being made on the issue. And while I definitely sympathize with that argument, you could make the same argument about 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds and 13-year-olds. But we do draw a line as to where people are able to start voting. And so I do think that not 16, I think that 18 makes the most sense to draw that line. And so I am sympathetic to this movement, and I'm open to having my mind changed, but I personally haven't heard a very convincing argument as to why we should lower the voting age to 16. I think that 18 actually makes a lot of sense. Now, there are some ages that I would like to move down. I'd like to move the drinking age down to 18. I like to, not every state has legalized marijuana, but when every state does have legalized marijuana, I think that should also be 18. I think that 18 makes a lot of sense for a lot of things. And yeah, it's where you finish schooling. I think that it makes the most sense. So if you guys disagree with my take on this issue, make sure to leave a comment below. But if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great day.